Fingers are already being pointed at terrorist involvement, and the Port Authority, the two-state agency that owns the complex, has come under fire for the way the emergency was handled. We begin our team coverage now with News 12's Reenie Mitchell, who is in our newsroom with the very latest. Reenie.
Okay, Joe and Judy, it's going to be a long time before it's business as usual at the World Trade Center, if today was any indication of what's to come. Rescue workers, including police, firefighters, Con Edison, have been working virtually around the clock, trying to find out exactly what did happen shortly after noon at one of New York's busiest areas.
Make a hole, please! Make a hole! Make a hole, please!
This was the scene outside the World Trade Center on Friday. It's been called an urban nightmare. They're the tallest buildings in New York, the second tallest in the country, yet still vulnerable to what might be a terrorist attack. As literally thousands of workers were forced to flee their workplace, many were visibly upset by what they felt.
There was a terrible explosion. For example, if you were walking down the hall, everything just vibrated. Boom! And then we were in our offices. The intercom systems didn't work. The telephones went off. The electricity went off. Nobody came and said anything. Corridors were blocked.
The blast, which occurred in a second-level parking garage, created a 200 by 100-foot crater. But it's been difficult for authorities to investigate that area because of possible structural dangers. When New Jersey Governor Jim Florio and New York Governor Mario Cuomo were taken on a tour of the damage, even they were required to stay away. At a news conference, the two governors joined New York City Police Commissioner Raymond Kelly, Port Authority Chairman Stan Brezhnev, and a host of other FBI and city officials. The top question on most people's minds was if the explosion was in fact a deliberate bombing.
While we do not yet have conclusive forensic evidence from our ongoing investigation, it appears that the explosion that occurred yesterday in the World Trade Center was in all likelihood the result of some type of explosive device.
Prudence requires that we do everything on the assumption that the worst possible situation is what is proven to exist.
Because the power went out in the Trade Center and the emergency generators didn't work due to flooding, many people had a lot of questions for the Port Authority.
While one might have assumed that two power systems to handle lights independent of one another would be sufficient, obviously they were not, and we will be looking at whether or not battery-powered lights as in a third system for short-term use might be a good thing to have.
And until that happens, Joe and Judy, it's going to be a while before workers are back to their jobs. We're being told that at 1 and 2 World Trade Center will probably not be open on Monday. There is a good chance, however, that 7 World Trade will be back ready for business. Joe, Judy?
Reenie, did they give any indication as to how long it would take to get to the site of the explosion as far as investigation is concerned?
They didn't. No, they did not give an exact indication because it really is. It's very dangerous, and they are considering it as such. You know, as I mentioned, when the governors took their tour, they were not even allowed that close. It's a crime scene.
I understand it's also difficult because of the possibility of further collapse. Did they go into that at all?
Yes, there's a great danger actually as to further collapse. There's a lot of concern over structural damage. There's also concern over glass. People have been injured by glass falling and breaking around them.
Okay, thank you very much, Reenie Mitchell. Now, the blast rocked one of the city's modern-day landmarks, the second tallest skyscraper in the world.
And the rescue effort was definitely called the largest in recent New York history. The World Trade Center dominates the New York City skyline, but as we've seen, it's not indestructible.
There's a bus right on the left. You got a bus on the left.
It was pandemonium after the blast as rescue efforts got underway. A triage center of sorts lined the base of the building. Paramedics worked feverishly to keep people alive. Hundreds of New York City and Port Authority police, a virtual sea of firefighters, an ocean of rescue workers helped thousands to safety.
Watch the axe!
The blast rocked one of the financial centers of the world. Smoke billowed from underground, where the explosion collapsed the roof of a PAP terminal. Reportedly, the black filth traveled above the 100th floor. The smoky hell the people left behind was evident on their faces.
We was in the store, and then we heard the explosion, and we feel like it was an earthquake, a small earthquake. And then the smoke came, and we started walking.
Sitting in front of my computer, boom, big explosion, building shook, power went out.
One guy told you had a bone come out of his back, bleeding. Another guy had blood all over his face, half of his face. These are the first people coming out. Who knows what happened to the other people? Many people with smoke inhalation, a couple of people passed out. A guy came running out on fire. And smoke coming off his back, they put it out, they took him to the emergency room.
On a normal business day, more than 100,000 people occupy the offices of the complex.
Looks like part of outer space has been brought here. Everything is thrown around. There was a tremendous explosion. I think there's 4 floors are down. They're pancaked down on top.
Frightened? That's not even the word.
What is the word?
Terrified. Because like I said, when you're in a house, at least you'd have a chance maybe to jump out a window or a door. When you're in an elevator, where do you go?
Many had to drudge down 50, 60, 70 flights of stairs to fresh air. Others were evacuated via helicopter off the roof of the building. As nighttime fell, some of the lights in the building were starting to come on, lighting the skies above as rescue workers continued to remove people from the rubble below.
Now, more than 600 people were injured and 5 were killed as a result of the explosion. Monica Smith of Seaford and Dan Giovanni of Valley Stream were killed by the blast. News 12's Matt Jablow joins us now. Matt.
Joe, Judy, yesterday's explosion has now tragically become very much a Long Island story. Today, the family of the Valley Stream man who was killed took time to talk with the media. Needless to say, it was not easy for them, speaking in the past tense about a man who is still very much with them. 290 North Corona Avenue in Valley Stream is a long way from the World Trade Center. But sadly, those two places will now be forever linked. 45-year-old John DiGiovanni was one of the 5 people killed in Friday's deadly explosion. Word of his death arrived last night at the home DiGiovanni grew up in and where he lived for the past few years with his elderly mother.
How would you like people to remember your brother?
He's a hell of a nice guy. Hell of a nice guy. That's the way I'd like it.
Ernest said his brother, a salesman for a dental supply company, was in Manhattan on a routine sales call. Tragically, the Trade Center was a logical place for him to park. At this time, it's not known if he was in or out of his car when the explosion rocked the building, but it is known he was near the source of the explosion and never had much of a chance. He died of cardiac arrest at St. Vincent's Hospital in downtown Manhattan.
When you stop and think at least what the press reports are now, that 5 people were killed in this incident, 4 of which were employees supposedly of the garage, and Johnny was the only one that wasn't. It's just the wrong place at the wrong time. Who knows, when God wants you, it's here.
DiGiovanni was divorced a number of years ago and has no children. A 1965 graduate of Valley Stream High School and a 1969 graduate of Hofstra, DiGiovanni was apparently a very athletic man and an avid Mets fan. In the calm Valley Stream neighborhood where John DiGiovanni lived, news of his sudden death provoked utter disbelief and profound sadness.
They're a lovely family. He's a good boy. He was a good boy. I can't believe that he's gone.
John DiGiovanni will be buried on Tuesday in Valley Stream. Joe, Judy.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Those are always really difficult stories.
So sad.
Thank you.
Just a real nice guy.
Well, as the horror of what happened unfolded